this next task force is financial and operational readiness. The actual task force leader is our budget director, Artis Hardy, but she can't be here today because she had a death in her family, so I'm stepping in. All right, so hopefully I'll do as good a job as she was prepared to do. So I'm a sub. In terms of don't act up. Okay, it's a sub here. All right. So the goal of this particular task force is really to eliminate the structural deficit. Okay, that's one part. And so what does that really mean? That means to make sure that our ongoing expenses do not exceed our ongoing revenues. And we know we have a challenge with that because that revenue number seems to kind of go down every year. So we have to kind of continue to reduce our ongoing expenditures. And so we'll get into it later on in the meeting about what the number really is, because we have a budget part of the day, and so we'll talk about that. But actually, this task force is really looking at that particular piece to make sure that we don't basically run out of money. And the other part of this task force gets into improving certain processes, and that would be in HR and accounts payable and payroll, and really looking at employee leave management. And so that is kind of what this task force is all about. Now we get into the why. Why is that important? Well, on the structural deficit piece, the reason that's important is we know all these efforts take resources, and you can throw a lot of money at stuff. And I believe in the early 2000s that got done. Hence, a $100 million loan, because we ran out of money. So we got to be real careful with the monies that we have and make sure we don't overspend in the effort to do all the work that we need to do. So we got to be mindful of making sure that we don't run out of money. So that's the kind of why on that end. And the why on the processing side is because we know that a lot of what was talked about today deals with really focusing in on the schools and in the classroom and in the teaching and in the community. And so these other processes, we got to make sure that they are efficient and effective, so don't take the time away from the school sites and the principals there to have to deal with these issues. So we want to make sure that they're efficient so that the folks can really spend time doing what needs to be done, and that's making sure that there's teaching and learning going on in the classrooms. And so that's what we're about in this particular task force. Now, what is the work about? Now, there's a working group where they're going to look at kind of like the backgrounds of these areas, the overview of the area, what the procedures have been. They're going to look at what kind of work's been done in all these areas, because some work has been done in these areas before. So we don't want to kind of recreate the wheel and don't want to throw out all that old work and information that we've had looking at these areas. And then really understand what the constraints are, because we know we're in our system deals with, ed code, labor contract, legal, a lot of constraints there, but also understand what the pain points are as we go through this process, what the pain points have been. And so from there, the task force will look at all that information and kind of, digest it, and then try to come up with recommendations as far as how to make it better, but also how, hopefully, to help everybody understand it so we won't trip over processes that we can't get out of the way. Okay? Wow. You put time on my intro, man? What's up with that? Okay. So, who's involved? Central office, principals, school site staff, community members, and union reps as well. And so far, the meetings have been with department heads and task force leaders, and in February, the community will really get involved as part of this engagement too. So that's what goes on with this particular task force. So that's number one.